welcome to the next episode of Chillin' with Dylan. I'm your host, Dylan, and I'm really excited to welcome our guest who has been on here before. It's our very best friend, Adam. Welcome, Adam.
Woo! Thanks, Dylan. Thanks for having me back again. I'm very, very happy, stoked to be back as well. Very excited to have a chat today.
Yeah. It's a very exciting topic we got planned today. But before that, just tell us how you're going, Adam. It's been a while. I haven't talked to you for a few weeks or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been going pretty good. I guess over the past month and a bit, I've started a new job uh,
Oh,
at a startup, which is coincidentally what we're going to be talking about today, right?
yeah, that's really funny, Adam. You know, it's funny because in the last few weeks, I also started a new job. Not at a startup though,
Wow.
but I guess you could say it's a corporate, a big company, corporate. That's so funny.
Hmm. Funny that.
Yes. So lots of stuff going on in our lives. Yeah, so you're over in Sydney right now still, and is it all good? Are you guys in lockdown still? What's happening?
Yeah. So no, we're out of lockdown. We came out a couple weeks back, maybe 2, 3 weeks back. It's hard to keep track of time, but but we have eased restrictions where you can go to restaurants, cafes, the barber shop, the gym as well. So all great things. Things are starting to open back up again, and from what I understand, Wellington is still pretty good, right, Dylan?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like we've had quite a lot of freedom for the last month or two. We had a brief lockdown. New Zealand's all over the place at the moment. But yeah. I'm going to work to the office every day. I feel for the people who are currently in various forms of lockdown. Shout out to our friends in Auckland. We feel for you. You know, kia kaha. Yeah, like you guys will get through, and everywhere else. Is it like where else? Some of our friends in Melbourne, they're in are they lockdown?
Melbourne actually came out of lockdown last week, I believe.
Oh, good
So
on them then.
yeah,
Yeah,
good on them.
and
Well
wherever you
deserved.
are, wherever people are in the world, lockdown or not, welcome to the show, I guess. So today's topic, it's actually it's career focused. It's about our work and career. Uh, it is about the battle between startups and corporates, these two worlds colliding. And we're going to go a little bit into our careers and how we chose our careers, I guess, in different fields at the moment. Um, so, yeah, Adam, what have you been up to recently, I guess, in the career or professional sense?
Career or professional sense. That's a good question. I guess for both of us, we you can't say we've been out of uni for that long, but we have been out of uni for a couple of years, right? Since
Yeah.
I would have graduated back in 2016 was my last year at uni, so 2017 onwards I've been working. Uh, well, 5 years now. Um, Time really flies, and I guess I'll give a bit of a rundown of my CV and where I've worked at. So right out of uni, I was fortunate enough to land a job at um, at one of the big four banks in New Zealand, at the Bank of New Zealand. Um, Awesome company. There's a lot of great people there. I still know a lot of people, great people there. So shout out to everyone at the BNZ. Um, that was sort of my first intro into the workspace, and it was good. It was definitely a corporate environment, that's for sure. There's a lot of slow processes which weren't great, and a lot of hoops to jump through. But at the same time, it was really good in the sense that you could um, all the all the processes are set out for you. You don't have to think about it. You can go there, do your job, and look for small incremental improvements. Whereas I find with my job now, so I'll talk about the transition. So after 3 years, um, I went and decided to move to Australia. Whether it's bold or stupid, you can decide for yourself. I moved without a job. Going from
Ooh.
I guess most secure job that you can find in the world, which is at a bank, to having no job in Australia. But I was fortunate enough to find a job at this place called House, working in sales, which is quite different to what I was doing before. So House is a startup that came out of the US, and it basically helped a lot of businesses, a lot of home renovating businesses advertise their products. So I was just selling software and selling marketing basically. After I did that for a couple of months, I moved on to another social enterprise startup called Bring Me Home, which I was really fortunate enough to work with an amazing team of people. And what we did was help cafes and restaurants um, clear out their excess food at the end of the day so they can put it on the platform and sell it at a cheaper price. So it's a win-win for both the restaurants, the food venues, as well as the customers, because they still get fresh and delicious food just for a slightly discounted price. Yeah, so I was there for a bit, but obviously with COVID, the situation wasn't as ideal for the hospitality space over here in Sydney and Melbourne. So we unfortunately had to wind the business down. But I would like to say, have a huge shout out to Jane, the CEO of the business, who was a great help throughout the process and someone that I look up to a lot. And then I guess I've just started my new job here at Amber Electric, which is another social enterprise based out of Melbourne. So I'm working remotely. And what we do is that we are helping transition Australians towards 100% renewable energy. So along the sustainability front, I'm very passionate about the ideas as well. What about you, Dylan? Can you give us a bit of a rundown on your background?
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, so like Adam, I also studied at the University of Auckland, and yeah, did 5 years there. My background is conjoint in commerce and engineering. Not going to go into exactly what they are. There's so much I could talk about um, there, but yeah, that basically gave me a broad range of skills I could apply to, I guess, the whole range of different types of careers or industries. Um, and it was great because I didn't use any of it in the first year out of uni because I traveled the whole world and went to lots of different countries and did a bit of a gap year. Uh, and then
While we're on that topic, how did you find it? How did you find taking a gap year? Because
I was
that's not a
actually
very conventional thing to do. Most people just jump straight into the workforce.
no, I actually didn't know anyone who like did a gap year sort of thing straight after uni. I know a few people who did it after high school and before they started studying or going to work, but I thought it'd be fun. The year was 2019. Just picture a world where COVID-19 didn't exist, and I had a bit of money, so yeah, thought it would be a good chance to get that all out of the way, out of my system before starting work and getting into the grind. I wasn't sure where I would end up landing career-wise, what sort of place I'd end up working with, so I thought I'd do that all beforehand. And that brings me to, yeah, my career, which I guess in terms of full-time work, I first started working over at the Ministry of Education for New Zealand. I had to move to Wellington, so that's why I live in Wellington now. And since then, after about a year and a half or so, I left that job and started working at a different organization. It's a company named Becker. It's a large engineering consultancy firm mainly, but also different types of professional services are provided by them to various clients. So I work in the digital consulting space in data analytics and things like that. And that's sort of the sort of work I've done in the previous 2 years or so. Analytical work, lots of numbers and graphs and data. Yeah, that's what I've done. So I guess my background is a bit of corporate, governmental, public sector, private sector. Uh, and I think the common thing is that I've mainly worked for large organizations with thousands of people, can be around the world as well. Yeah, a few other things I did like as internships were other types of large corporate, like Big Four accounting or professional services firms. So that's my main experience. But yes, in terms of startups, I don't think I've done much work, but I've worked a lot with that space in other areas of life and with people who are there. So that's sort of my background, and yeah, we could go on and on, but you'd probably be able to just stalk us on LinkedIn or something. Maybe drop that in the podcast notes. Just kidding.
A subtle LinkedIn link, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
just connect.
See our profile views rocket up as this podcast goes viral. No, just kidding. No, that's yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Adam. It's really good actually to just reflect back on the last few years and what we've done for work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, don't often think about it like in terms of that too often.
Unless you're going through interviews, and then in which case you got to know every single job that you've done, your
Yes,
pros and
that
cons.
that
Yeah.
like random job you did for 2 weeks when you're in high school. And no, you got to know what you did in the last 5 to 10 years, and then also exactly what you're doing in the next 5 to 10 years. Your
Yeah.
10-year plan. They'll ask every detail, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I guess when you're in an interview, one aspect that isn't covered as much as sort of the people and culture, and they try to incorporate that into the interview process, try to understand you as a person, but it's quite difficult to capture that with a couple of questions. So yeah, I guess one thing maybe that we could talk about today is people and culture at the different organizations. What was it
Yeah.
like working at a government job, Dylan?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. I guess in terms of people and culture, what I did like a lot about working in a governmental organization, you probably relate, but a lot of people are very purpose-filled. People are usually working for this organization, which has a wider societal benefit. It could be in education, it could be improving the economy, it could be justice, or it could be like law, it could be I don't know, something else that sort of benefits society. I think that's one of the best things. So people where I worked when I was over at the Ministry of Education, everyone was really passionate about education and just creating better schools, better systems across the entire country. And yeah, people just really generally cared a lot and wanted to work hard for the betterment of New Zealand. And people are obviously, some people are more biased because they have kids in school, and and almost everyone obviously has gone to school. So it was cool. So that's pretty cool in terms of people. Culture wise, it was a large organization. There's other smaller government organizations which would, I'd imagine, have different kind of cultures, but with a larger one, there's a lot of processes, as you've alluded to, like whether it's a private sector company, a bank, or a large governmental organization. Processes are a big thing, which is good because when you start, like, there's not much uncertainty. You get like a whole bunch of things laid out for you, um, and all that stuff. So yeah, there's good processes, but then often sometimes uh, those processes can come back to bite you if you're in a organization like that that's quite large. There's things that if you want to do new things, it's harder to get through the hoops with many of those processes, which is, I found, yeah, a lot of people do enjoy following processes like that. That's sort of like another part of the people, like in general, more people like are quite into those very important processes. Some of them are like sort of legally based in a government organization, like you kind of have to do things according to the law, which is good, and other things are just more, this is the way we do things. And so yeah, the people are nice, basically. They're real passionate. Yeah, it's a it's a nice place to work, and I enjoyed my time. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So
yeah, and how
yeah,
does
what
that
about
compare
you?
to Becca now, I guess? Do you feel
Oh,
like it's different?
I think Becca, yeah, Becca's like quite a innovative company these days. It's like about 100 years old, and they start off as an engineering company with like building bridges, structural, whatever, civil, and all sorts of stuff. And now, yeah, I'm in a part that's quite innovative, and people are like always trying new ideas with new technologies. There's a whole bunch of stuff I'm just learning right now. All these, yeah, very interesting things, especially in the tech, data, software space. Working a lot um, with people there, and so uh, yeah, people are nice as well. Um, like if my boss listens or something, I'm not. If I didn't like it, then I wouldn't be saying it here. But I genuinely do like uh, every part of it for the few weeks I've been around. But yeah, I don't have as much to say at this point. Um, but yeah, I do find that um, there's a lot of smart people where I work. So I'm able to learn a lot from them. Yeah, and I think for me, I did engineering as one of my degrees. So going into the area where almost everyone or a whole bunch of people have an engineering background, that's actually quite nice. Like you can all nerd out at certain things. Yeah, I
Back
feel
amongst your people.
I'm coming home, and yeah, even though I'm not doing actual engineering work, I do feel like I'm in a place where I belong in some way. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's quite fun. But yeah, that's I guess the thing for my specific company. And every other type of corporate would have a different culture. Yeah. So how about you, Adam? You've worked at a large bank for many years. What was your experience like in that world? And yeah, like
Yeah.
how does it compare?
I guess for me, I've been very fortunate to work for a number of organizations, and the people have always been great. And it's just the people that you work with, they're always very supportive. It, I don't think that changes very much between the size of the organization. So people at banks, they are they're a lot of fun. Met a lot of really cool people, younger people who have just joined the bank and are like great to hang out with, great to have chats with, bants and all that. But there's also a whole bunch of people that have been at the bank for 30, 40 plus years. And that's almost unheard of for people in our generation, sort of, where you kind of find a new job every 2, 3 years. So it's refreshing to see that, and it's very you learn a lot from people that are in that position. They've been around for a lot. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
there's just so much respect for what they do, and they basically know everything. If you have any any questions at
Yeah.
all, you'll probably be able to go to them, and they'll be able to give you the right answer. There's
Wow.
almost nothing that they don't do.
So just quick question. What was the biggest thing you learned from your time in
At banking, that I don't want to do
uh
banking in the long term, but no, but in all seriousness, I think it's about in terms of people, it's just about how to deal with pressure, um deal with things when you fuck up, and how to ask for support. I guess this is more of a personal thing for me. I was always someone that would just try to figure out on my own, but with so much support and with so much experience at your fingertips, just to ask out and reach out to, uh, it will be a waste if you didn't reach out to those people. So yeah, it was
mm,
really good. And some of them were super, super nice, like 67-year-old ladies that are just like your grandma, like
cute.
your work grandma. So it's
Aw.
really nice. It's really, really nice. Um, yeah, and then I moved on to a US-based startup. How's that one was quite different. That's a sales environment. So sales environments are quite a little bit more competitive and a little bit more target driven, and that's just more of the culture. But the people were great. Like you could easily grab a beer with any one of them and just chill out and have bants and like talk crap basically after work.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to bleep that out. I don't know, Dylan, how
Oh,
how
yeah,
family
yeah,
friendly this is.
yeah. How
But
many 12-year-olds are listening right now? Raise your hand. Nah.
yeah, but
Um,
that was a great time as well. And Bring Me Home was a much smaller organization, so that was the smallest company that I've ever worked for. When I joined, there was only 5 people, as opposed to the bank, which is thousands, right? And that's
yeah.
that's crazy. So there's basically no processes. You just got to do stuff, and then you got to make processes as you go along. But the people are absolutely amazing. Everyone's driven. They'll pick up things wherever you need. And I feel like right now I've sort of landed at that sweet spot at Amber, where we've got around 50 employees at the moment
Yeah.
and growing very quickly. But the organization, there is some processes for support. There's people there to talk to. There's more than just 4 workmates. Like my team is bigger than that right now, but it's really really nice, to have that support. But at the same time, there's a lot of processes that you can develop on your own, and that's something that I'm very passionate about. Is just making things more efficient and looking at how to do things better. Um,
Oh,
but yeah, that's one of my experience. And people and culture have always been great. And one thing that's really stood out to me at Amber Electric, um, and I really have to give shout outs to, is there's such a great supportive culture where everyone is there to help each other out. And one example that really stands out to me is during the company all hands, where everyone gets together on a call. We have normally 5 to 10 minutes dedicated to people just giving kudos and thanks to each other in the
oh,
team, which is really awesome. Um, and it's not just managers thanking their team, but it's also team members thanking each other, team members thanking their managers, thanking like the leadership team. And that's just not something that you see very often, at least in all the organizations that I've worked with. It's quite
yeah.
rare to have that genuine appreciation for each other.
I guess it's cool in the startups that space. Like, there's a lot of more unique aspects of culture and things that certain teams do. Yeah, I've heard just over the years from people. Some things that other startups do can get quite quirky or something. Like, yeah. Um, but yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's so much we could go into that topic on. But yeah, I guess following on from that, like the people you work with, they affect your career development and how you progress. You can learn a lot. Um, h- how do you think, in that aspect, personal development and career wise, how does that differ between like in the startup space and like a large corporate? Um, Adam, since you've worked in both those areas, is there much difference?
From what I've observed, at least the mental model that I use to look at it is quite different between jobs at a corporate versus jobs at a startup. Um, I think jobs at a corporate, you really look at the role, a lot more than you do look at the company,
Yeah.
because what will change a lot more, oftentimes people have a very set career path
Hmm.
of where you want to go, where the next steps are, how many years it's going to take to move on to the next stage. Um, and all those roles are preset, right? You have a ladder that you can climb,
Yeah.
and whether you climb up the same ladder at the same organization or you jump between multiple different organizations, which, by the way, is the fastest way to get promotions and pay rises to anyone that's wanting to climb the corporate ladder. Uh, Obviously, you have to stay at an organization long enough to appreciate the culture and, um, to make sure that you're showing that you can stick it out with a company. But that is generally the fastest way to climb the corporate ladder, and it's a fairly set out route. Um, but whereas at a startup, I think the key thing to look out for is the company. You need to look for something that is growing and expanding very quickly. You need to look at how well the team is, because there's not as many set processes in place. You have to really look out for the people. And that's very, very important. So when you're interviewing for a startup, my biggest tip is to also, I guess the same with every job, but you really have to look out for the culture and look out for the people. You have to be interviewing them and making sure they're as right a fit for you as you are for them. Because a lot of the times at startups, you may not change organizations all that often. People actually stay with startups a lot longer than most other places, especially if they're growing. But what you do change is your role. You need to be able to adapt and change your skills and abilities to fit whatever the company needs, and you need to pick up skills very, very quickly. So your company might not change, but your role will change a lot. Whereas um, at a corporate organization, your role or at least your career path may not change a lot, but your companies may change quite a bit, at least for younger people like us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's so true. Like I think most startups are small enough that there's all these different things that people have to do just in order to make that company survive. Whereas in a larger organization, there's often some specialist dude or girl who's just like, they'll take care of that, and no one has to worry about doing that because roles are more specialized, and you've got teams that are on things. Like, I think just the interesting thing between the places I worked, there's always some form of like legal team, admin team, HR, health and safety. Like, I mean, those are classics. You need those. But yeah, there's finance. There's always a Ben from accounts. I don't know if you've met any Bens in accounting or accounts, Adam, in your startups, but like, I'm not saying I have, but yeah, there's a classic type, I guess, like structure that most large organizations tend to have.
hmm
um, but yeah, like I definitely agree that like in a corporate like the company as a whole doesn't matter as much as your team and your manager or boss. Uh, you can have the same organization but be in a different part of it, or even just in a team that's not your team, that's like a different part of the same group or section or business unit, and you could have a completely different experience. That's what I've noticed. Like each team will have a different vibe or different culture depending on who the leader or manager is. It could be different across different business groups as well. All these aspects that will affect you a lot when you're working in a corporate, they all vary a lot within the same company. Um, so yeah, I guess that's the same thing. Watch out for the people. Like watch for that and look for that when you're interviewing for large organizations as well as startups, because that really has a big impact. And I think I'm really lucky to have. I've had people who have been in leadership positions above me, like managers and bosses, and managers, and those that I've had. They're often very, very great people, and I think when a leader is good, it it translates a lot to the high functioning and performance of the teams in which people work in. And I've enjoyed my time. There's different things that like aspects of my team's cultures in the past that I've enjoyed. But yeah, like I just it's so good. Like one thing someone said to me, is that good bosses don't come by very often. Like when you find one, you got to stick with them, and that's what I think happens when in any sort of company, big or small, people stay longer when they're in a environment with a leader that works for them. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how rare a good boss is. Some people are just like average managers at best,
yeah,
but to have like a good leader is so rare.
yeah,
And on the topic of career progression, they'll help out a lot. For
yeah,
example, I have a lot of friends who are in corporate jobs, and their manager may have moved to a different organization, and if they think really highly of you, they'll probably bring you along with them as well, and often with either a pay rise or a promotion to boot with that as well. But it's great to stick with people that you get along with and you know that you work well with and that
yeah.
help you.
I think like those types of managers or bosses or leaders, the one thing that sets them apart is that they genuinely care for you. Like, I guess your career, progression. They'll look for opportunities that you're interested in that'll benefit you, even if you don't know that yourself. Like they may have the experience to know what might work for you, and they'll always be trying to develop you and help you grow into a better person or worker. Whereas like other managers may sort of see you as like like as a product, or like someone that you like give them money, feed them some money, and they will output a bit of work. And there's leaders and there's managers, and often anyone who can succeed at both would be amazing. But like there's different styles out there. And for development, I've been lucky, and it goes all the way back again to people and culture and stuff like that.
Very,
even
very
when we're talking about professional development and growth in our career.
Yeah, it's a very underrated topic. I guess also another topic that isn't really talked about a lot, or people are quite shy to talk about, is money, just in general, not just in like career as how much you make.
Did you have to bring that up, Adam? No, I don't want to tell the
talk
whole
about it?
world about how much I earn.
Oh,
we're
no,
not gonna
Dylan.
do that. We have there's sites like Glassdoor and PayScale for that and all that, or you can ask your friends. We're not gonna do that, right, Adam?
No, we're not.
Okay, good. Now I bet you people are now curious. They're like, oh, nah. Nah. But money is an important part of working, because if you weren't working for money, you'd be enslaved, I guess.
Or volunteering.
That's just a nice way to say slavery. No, just kidding. No.
Unpaid internships.
That's like the biggest scam ever, eh?
Yeah.
Like straight up. I think in like places like New Zealand and Australia, that doesn't really happen often. There's laws around that, but I've heard.
I've definitely been in a couple
Really?
of unpaid internships. Yeah. But it's work experience, I guess. But you're definitely not getting compensated for what you're doing.
Are you gonna name the places?
No, I obviously won't name and shame.
No, okay. No, we all know that.
But I did learn a lot from them as well. So
no, you do learn, but I think in like this part of the world, unpaid internships do happen, but aren't as common. But I know like in parts like of the world, like in Europe, US, it's the norm. It's the complete norm, and a paid internship is like, whoa, that's all. That's like,
amazing. You get money. Yeah, you guys are getting money. It's like that meme. You guys are getting paid.
Yeah.
But I guess there's also a bit of difference once you actually get into full-time paying job of the different compensation packages that you can have, right? What sort of compensation packages have you seen for corporates, Dylan?
My last job, I was on a salary, and that was the main thing. And there was a few benefits that you could get. Like we had a eyewear allowance. That's really good. For optometry and
that's cool.
glasses, contact lenses.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky. Utilized that. I guess it's like in the long contracts, a lot of things are things that you need for work. Like, if you're looking at a computer, like in most offices, like it makes sense. Yeah, some places will reimburse you for costs of things like that. And I think other benefits, I don't know if it's a benefit, but like at my last place, if we need to work from home, we get sent, all the IT equipment, like keyboards, monitors, headsets that we need. And I think that's kind of cool when you, maybe not like you just bring all your work gear to home. But it's nice working from home, actually. Like many places nowadays will allow that, but in the past, before COVID, probably wasn't the same. So I think they say that working from home is one of the things that many large organizations will do nowadays. And people in different life stages will need that flexibility. There's other things, like I know that my current company, they'll offer health insurance sort of bonuses or part of your salary. And yeah, like there's a few things like that on top of salary. But yeah, I think compensation packages are important in terms of like pay and like pay rises and progression there. Like obviously jumping up to a different senior position will get you more, but in the government sector in New Zealand, at least, it's quite common to have like sort of measured pay scales. So like on for us in Ministry of Education, the 1st of July each year, like it would increase by a certain percentage. You don't, it would just happen. It's part of like these negotiated
Are you able
collective
to
agreements.
disclose what percentage it is?
uh it's a little bit higher than inflation.
Okay,
it's,
not
it's
bad.
it's it's yeah, it really depends on the organization, but it'd be
Mm.
like for us it'd be about 5%, but from what I've heard, there's a bit more inflation these days in New Zealand, so stuff like that isn't going to be too helpful if that keeps going. But yeah, and I know in my company, like and other companies, there's annual performance reviews, and your salary sort of like increases depending on things. There's bonuses. I haven't worked long enough to really get into that, but
Mm.
um, yeah, there's a whole range. Um, what about you, Adam? How does things work in the startup world? I don't know as much.
There's probably a bit more variance and like different types of compensation packages. Obviously, the most common is sort of your salary plus benefits packages, but at a startup, typically your benefits will be a lot less than at a corporate. So you might not be able to get like your eyewear allowance or less on your health insurance. I think that's quite a nice, comfy benefit to have, and that's not something that's super common in the startup world. Um, if you're in something like sales, you'll probably have a base salary plus commission on top, which is great. And that just depends on how well you can sell, really. Um, and then I guess the company that I'm working for right now, Amber, is actually very, very conscious about this, and they're quite liberal with the support and benefits that they provide to staff. So the package that I'm on right now, and some other startups may also offer, is the salary plus also some share options.
Yeah,
And that typically how that works is if you're with a company for a while, there's normally a vesting period of like 2 years, 1 or 2 years, where you don't get any shares, and then you'll gradually get a couple of shares as you go along. And the hope is that if you stick with the company long enough, by the time you leave, or by the time the company goes public or they sell or whatever, has a much higher valuation, and that package is paid a lot more. There's also other side fringe benefits, like sometimes you get paid lunches, which is pretty awesome. As well as I have like a decent work from home budget as well to get work from home equipment so you can work more efficiently now that everyone is working in everyone before was working in lockdown, and you have to be working remotely anyway. So yeah, there's a couple of differences, but I guess one thing to highlight for a startup is yes, pay is important, and you do need to be able to feed yourself. But if purely the dollar figure and your salary or your paycheck at the end of the day is what you care about, um, then probably the startup world is not necessarily the best for you, because you will be working a lot of long hours for maybe not that much pay. And so you really have to be passionate about what you're doing, really believe in the mission of what you're trying to do, uh, or else it's just not worth it. You can find much cozier jobs for much higher pay. Like for example, the bank is very very good at that. Actually, bank
yeah,
is great work life balance and really well paid. Um, but yeah, that's sort of the situation. So
yeah,
money is important, but not the most important thing when it comes to looking for a job in startups.
yeah. Like I think it definitely makes sense. Like in this startup world, purpose and mission and vision and stuff like that is really important. I think, is it true that like maybe maybe have more interaction with the leaders, the founders, or the, like like you'd actually be interacting with them day to day. Whereas in a corporate space, that would be rare. There'd be like some celebrity in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny story. Oh no, I don't have enough time, but like one of the new starters in my previous job, like he started, and like there was the leader of our business group, so it was like they're quite up there, like pretty much I guess like C-level. He ended up in a lift with him for a while, and he was like oh, like, making small talk. So like, what do you do around here? And then the I guess the leader dude was like, "What? You don't know who I am? I'm your new boss."
I'm your new
Like,
boss's boss.
yeah, boss's boss. Literally that. Like I think the dude was quite shook that like so a lot of the leaders do expect you to know them, and like it's like you have that separation between the bottom and the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like my unfortunate poor graduate starter felt a bit shook, and was like, "Oh no, did I like
No.
stuff up my entire career?"
I think what would have
Not
been
gonna name names.
funnier is if the guy was just like, yeah, I'm like the janitor. I just mop the floors here.
Yeah,
We'll
just
rock
go.
up in a suit.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I like the fact that in startups, yeah, you're like you're in tune with the mission, and I like that you have those share options. You get to go for the whole ride along the journey of the company, whereas in larger organizations, everyone will have some basic, vision statement or whatever. But like half the time you ask anyone, just like your typical worker, and be like, wait, was that what it was? I can't remember. It was something like, like it's less ingrained into the psyche of people who work. It's just like, oh, they just have to have that. And some people will get into it, but yeah, it's something I notice, I guess. Like purpose wise, often people are just there, get the job, get the money and go home. And it is like often there's good work life balance in certain corporates, not in others, but it really varies on the organization and the culture and expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, that was such an interesting conversation and chat. That went much quicker than I expected, Adam. Like, did you think so?
Yeah, well, I thought that we're keeping towards a schedule, and we're kind of on time, a little bit over, but
Yeah, it's good, but like it basically just shows how much there is to talk on this topic.
yeah, there's probably a lot more
Um,
that we haven't covered as well. But hopefully, we gave you a bit of a taste between startups versus a corporate environment, and then also versus a government job as well,
yeah,
which can be
yeah.
quite different.
And I wonder if people think whether we've like changed people's minds, whether they think now startups are for them or corporates. Like how I think we'll know who wins the battle in this
Mm.
versus lineup.
Yeah. And if you have any further questions or just about something that we talked about, make sure to leave a comment and we'll answer them.
Yeah, and let us know what you're interested in and all that. We got lots of stuff up, for you to interact with. So thank you for listening, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you have a great day or evening or commute to work or back from work. And if you're unemployed, like I was before, have
Fun
fun.
employed. Fun employed.
Have fun in your fun employment, and maybe we've helped you decide where to go next. But yeah, all right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Adam, for joining us on the show. I really appreciate.
Thanks for having me.
Time. All right. Well, thanks everyone. You've listened to another episode of Chillin'
With
Dylan.
Whoa! We really need to practice on that.
Yeah. Anyways. All right. See you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.